guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here today with my esteemed colleagues Evan Liu, Jackie K, Brennan Vogt, and we're here to talk about a re-signing of Brock Nelson with the Colorado Avalanche. As you can see, we're having a few technical difficulties right now, but the more important thing is you can see us. You can see us, beautiful people, ready to talk to you about the Colorado Avalanche. Jackie, I notice you have a new, beautiful icon, so thank you for joining the program today. Let's just get right to it. The Avs re-signed Brock Nelson for 3 years at $7.5 million AAV. I'm just going to give the floor to Evan, because I know you got to go soon. So let's get your quick reaction to those figures and how that went.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Ado. I appreciate it. Initial reaction is that I don't love it. I don't love it. It's basically the same, not the same. It's not the same contract, but it's the same number, a very similar number to what Nazem Kadri now has in Calgary, right? You couldn't have done it then. Understandable. Here, I feel like you were kind of forced to do it with the trade. You trade away a top draft pick. You trade away Cal Ritchie, who's your best prospect in the entire system for this guy. And I mean, Nelson wasn't, I think, all that great. I think we can all kind of agree on that. I think hopefully, and this is a very big hopefully, a full year will kind of solidify him and make things a little bit better. But the contract right now doesn't feel too great. But they also needed to do something since there was not this was not a very good free agency class. I mean, we can go on and on about the 2C debate, right? Well, who's going to be the 2C for the Avalanche? It's a thing every year, basically, at this point, unfortunately. Brock Nelson, I think, at least somewhat solidifies that. But then again, we've gone through that with Casey Middlestat and Brian Johansson, and now here we are. So they had to do something. I'm glad they've got him at least down. They've got some good center depth now with McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle, Drury. If you want to throw Ross Colton in there, you could. So they've got good center depth. I like that. Whether or not it's actually utilized and able to drive play forward, especially on Brock Nelson's front, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I disagree with any of the points you just made. I texted or messaged our Slack channel right off the rip. Isn't it ironic that they're paying him $500,000 more AAV than the Kadri deal that ended up sending Kadri to Calgary? Got a lot of comments that said, yes, hindsight is a beautiful thing, but to me, it's not the same player, so it's not really hindsight. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, as you mentioned, Evan, the center depth is a good thing to have. Jackie, you wrote at length about the Avs maybe just calling it quits on trying to find that 2C. Well, they have another installment of the experiment. How are you feeling right now, Jackie?
Feeling, that's a good thing. Just that this team is just another bridge away from what they were. We know that roster players are going to have to go. And I guess until those trades are made, we can all believe that they're going to be great trades and they're going to get a lot of great assets for them. We'll see. I don't think the roster players that they're going to trade are going to have the value that people think. Yeah, I wrote that article because I think that they needed to make it work with Coyle and Colton. Like it cost a lot to get Coyle, and I just think it's ridiculous that he wasn't good enough, at least for 1 year, to be able in tandem to do it. I think this whole 2C thing is kind of an archaic concept. What you want to do is just have the best team, the best players. The whole like obsessing over at one line, a certain line. The problem there has been it's been an analytic black hole. Even with Nelson, Nelson was not over 50% expected goals in the regular season. It was a little bit better with Landeskog on the line, but that line had 19% expected goals in Game 7. So I think you need to do a little bit more than just sign a guy and say we did it and now the problem's solved, because I don't think it is. And so $7.5 million, which is they had like 8.7 cap space. Now, of course, that figure's massaged a little one way or the other with who you're including, but on paper now they have $1.2 million left. They have to replace Duran, Lindgren, Kivi Ranta, and sign Malinsky with $1.2 million. So I have a hard time seeing how this team's going to get better this summer. I have a hard time seeing how it's going to get better in the short term. People could say at least it's 3 years. Well, he's also going to be 34 years old this fall. So we don't know when the cliff is coming. Could he still be productive over the life of this contract? Maybe. 13 points in 19 games wasn't bad. He could at least score goals, unlike Middlestat. So he has a couple 30 goal seasons. But it all just is continuing to further the notion that the Avs have lost touch. They don't get it. They're trying to save face. They think they had the answer. They think this is the way to build the team. Nelson's now the third highest paid player on the team.
Yeah.
And he's only making $1.5 million less than Makar. So we don't need just like good, acceptable. Like at this price point, we're saying you have to drive the bus.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to drive the bus. So like I said, I think this is getting further and further away from them getting it, from actually improving the team, from having a vision of how the rest of McKinnon and Makar's primes are going to go. And it's just like, how much more along for the ride do we have to be?
Yeah. Well, I mean, 3 years at 34 does raise some eyebrows, but I will say that the NHL in 2025 is a little bit different. Like, I think these guys, the longevity of a career of someone like Brock Nelson, I think can extend in a way that maybe we haven't seen. I know
statistically proven that.
Well, over the past, without the same technology and advancements in medicine. That's kind of my point.
It's still the human body, though. I mean,
sure,
I'm not
tell
saying...
that to Sidney Crosby, who's probably going to play at 40.
Okay, well, he's the exception. He's one of the exceptions.
I think we'll see more of those. Is my point. Is that as these training advancements and these medical advancements continue? I mean, a guy like Landeskog never comes back 5 years ago, so we've seen it, come to life already here. And now for the Avalanche, I do think, like you said, it's a concern. He's going to be 37 years old at the end of his contract. That's a concern. But for me, this signing, I agree that it's in reaction to trading Cal, Richie, and that first, and you can't just let him walk away after doing that. I agree with that. But I also think that there's still track for Brock Nelson to prove that he does belong on this team and that he can contribute to the tune of what his teammates expect from that role of 2C. Brendan, what are your thoughts? You've been in here for a while. You've been very patient, very quiet and kind. What do you think of this deal? Are you kind of in the same camp as Jackie? Are you concerned about that age? I know you are also very privy and in tune with how the body is affected by hockey.
Yeah, I don't like the amount at all. at his age, I know he was probably looking for his cash out to settle for retirement after, but this does eliminate any high value free agents for the offseason, like Brad Marchand, and had to get it in.
Even on an emergency pod.
And
Why
like she was
wouldn't he
saying,
leave a team he wins a cup with?
yeah,
He
true,
already
but
did
I
still,
hope
he
he
could
does.
win the cup in Colorado too. But that my big concern is that leaves the defense exposed. Lindgren is going to leave. Are they going to be able to give a qualifying offer to Sam Malinsky? Are they going to be able to give qualifying offers to Trent Miner, who more than likely will stay with the Eagles? And then it's they're gonna have to go cheap on D, and that's my big concern. And that bottom pairing is gonna be yikes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I mean, this
Yeah,
tells
go
me
ahead,
that.
Ezra. It's your turn.
Okay, yeah, thanks. This tells me that there's more coming because look,
Sure.
we all talked about Brock Nelson leading into this. We didn't want this to happen. I think we were all a consensus for once on please don't do it.
Exactly. Yes.
But it has happened. So looking forward, I'm thinking, okay, this contract means there has to be another move coming because there's no way they can afford to fill out the roster with this contract on the books and only $2 million in cap space to work with.
1.2 is what Jackie said.
1.2, thank you.
Yeah.
To fill out the rest of the holes that we just discussed. So to me, this is like they either have a plan to move on from Charlie Coyle or a plan to move on from Ross Colton. And would I rather have those guys than Brock Nelson? I think it's kind of a push here, and I'll explain that because Brock Nelson's obviously the better player. He's older and he costs more. So that offsets that to me. Would I rather have any one of these three guys? Not really. They're all pretty equivalent to me. I think Colton's the most attractive because he's youngest and cheapest. But if I had to choose to get rid of one of these guys at the current price points, it's probably Charlie Coyle, not Brock Nelson. So if that's the move, okay, all right, let's see what happens. Then they can fill out their defense from there. Man, yeah, the one time we all agree on something, obviously they go the other way.
Well, it's funny because you say that, but I also think we all agreed that they'd not trade Cal Ritchie.
That's true.
As the trade deadline approached. So
that's true.
And I want to get back to Jackie because Jackie, I know I kind of not poo-pooed, but I sort of gave my 2 cents on your thoughts on his age. But I do want to talk about the fact that it was talked about ad nauseum about not sending Cal Ritchie, not sending draft picks to secure 2C, and you've laid out on the table that you think this is a reaction to just not wanting to admit failure on that trade. What sort of reality plays out in which you do feel comfortable with this trade? Is it really just a cup or bust thing? And I know you hate that as an idea in general, but is that really the only outcome for you?
No, because because they're not even on that. They're not even on that highway.
Yeah.
I mean, what do I need to see to make it work? There's just no answer at this point. Like, I can't even just say. It's not even about wins and losses. Like, yeah, I get that's the point why the team exists and why they compete in games, but look, if you're just looking to celebrate wins and losses, there's a team that wins the cup every year. So celebrate that. So it's not that simple, right? Like, you have to have a reason to be invested. You have to have a reason to believe in the team. At some point, the reality of what it is and the reality of what you're chasing after is so far apart that you can't even reconcile the difference here. So we'll see what the moves are. I don't think it's as simple as saying like Nelson's better than Coyle or Colton, because if you had just kept Coyle or Colton, you would have had better other players. So we're already sacrificing. We're pretty much sacrificing any any path towards, you know, getting this team back on track in a, what are we doing for the future here?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, I'm not even saying in the 2030 future. I'm saying in the, so McKinnon and Makar actually have a chance to win a cup again future.
Right.
More
So,
immediate future.
yeah, in the real future. So, I don't think they see it as they're just covering up a failure. I think this was always their intention. Like they intend to pay for the new toys. We'll see if that comes to fruition with Netchess.
Yeah.
I think they knew it. They knew the price that he turned down from the Islanders. I think they knew the whole time what they probably had to pay to keep him. So I don't think of it as like a panic in that sense. I think it was the plan, but why is it the plan? And I don't want to hear, oh, because 2C is so important. I've already laid out, this is like this mythical thing. It's this archaic way of looking at it, that just because you can wake up in the morning and say we have a 2C doesn't mean your team's better, doesn't mean that you're more likely to win, and it doesn't mean that you're going to keep up with the teams that are ahead of you. So back to the Richie thing, like I said, that was your only chance to have a young impact player. You threw that away. They have no other chance to have a young impact player, but they don't care about that. They don't think that's important. They don't think that's what's going to help them win. So, I mean, they always were going to think that. If they marginalized and dismissed Richie already, then he was never going to make it here. So, I'm not saying that makes the trade okay. I'm just saying that that's where their mindset is and how they think that they're going to get this team back to being a champion. And I completely disagree with it. Other people, you know, might not agree with me. That's fine. Or they want to see the good in this. I'm going to wait until I see what the whole picture is after the summer to say for sure. I don't see it right now.
Yeah.
They have time to shock me with some actual players that I might want to root for. We'll see. This is a little bit more difficult with them spending the wad on this move. Yeah. I don't know what miracles they're going to pull out, but, you know, maybe they trade Colton for 2 first-round picks and sign a bunch of players that are good. I don't know. So
Jackie, is there a player on the free agent market that you're like, oh, that's somebody I would be excited to be a fan of?
Sure, but they're wingers. So I mean, that's all trash by definition. They're wingers.
No. I'm curious who they are though.
You know, guys like Ehlers, Besser. Not that I ever think the Avs would land them, but they're players that I think Rossi are decent.
So, I do want to point out that the same year that Nelson becomes an RFA, assuming there are no changes, they just keep re-signing everyone at the same rate, which we all know won't happen. Lehkonen is a UFA. Ross is a UFA. Yeah. Jack Drury is a UFA, which he'll be an RFA the year before, so who knows?
Makar?
You're saying
Makar's going to be a UFA. Gerard's going to be a UFA. Middleton's going to be a UFA.
Well, you're saying when Nelson's contract expires?
Yeah.
This is the same year.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's going to be a good season.
Well, and I was going to say that year, Jackie, you might be really excited because they should have a bunch of money to spend at that point unless they've tied it up otherwise. But I like that you're bringing up some of these defenders because you guys have talked about trading some wingers and some forwards that we have to fill the roster in ways since there is that only $1.2 million left in the cap for the Avalanche. But, I mean, I think we talked about the defense lacking already, Brennan, but I think that's probably where they're going to make a trade because I feel like
don't you say Gerard.
No, I will never say Sam Girard. I will absolutely never say trade Sam Girard. He was the best defender for the Avalanche in the Dallas series. My humble opinion, but I have some metrics to back it up. I'll let that digress, though. I do think Manson is on the way out. And I do think that he fits the profile of a player who can go to a team that is willing to just look at him as a dump and send them some, lower end assets, but potentially
he has a 12-team no trade list.
Sure.
And he's slightly more than a dump. He's one of those locker room veterans that young teams should be looking for.
He's also 4.5. That's going to take a They're going to have to eat some of that.
Which is what I think some teams will be willing to do. One of those 20 teams, I think, will be willing to do that. But I think the whole point of this is that Nelson's signing today absolutely indicates, as we've laid out, that other roster players are going to go. It just has to happen. It also probably indicates that a guy like Jonathan Drouin, unless he comes in at basically the league minimum, he's probably not going to be a Colorado Avalanche next year. And so that jersey I bought this past season is useless.
Yeah, I'd say just don't buy jerseys, period, anymore. I think till we're out of this era.
Unless they have a letter.
Yeah, 8, 29,
I don't
or
even
92.
know about that.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's safe anymore. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, Landy as well.
I think Landy's going to be safe. He'll always be in the halls. You know,
I don't know. I would knock on wood there.
they kept him for 3 years while he was injured. So
Yeah. But that's just because they had to realize him coming
They
back
had
to
to.
being
Who's
a true
going to
asset.
trade for that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're just kind of being facetious
We're
right now, but that is
spitballing,
the
but
point.
yeah.
that is the point, is that this isn't just one move, and in fact, it's a reaction to
Yeah.
old
Yeah, we'll
moves.
see how valuable those players they think they can trade are. We'll see.
So let's think about Brock Nelson and his time so far. We've seen some things that we like. We've been told by the metrics that he's a good scorer 5-on-5, and that was one of the issues for the Avalanche all season. We've got
He
new
wasn't good
assistants.
5-on-5. He was
I mean,
below
not for-
50.
Not for
career.
us. In his career, he's been good 5-on-5 is kind of what I mean. But I guess my question is, he got demoted a little bit in terms of like the power play and stuff like that when he did come to Colorado. Do you guys think that changes now that the Avs are more invested, or is it still going to be Bednar just playing games with money?
Well, it depends what the keys are taken away. So if Drouin's gone, that does open up another spot.
Sure.
They probably do see him as a second power play guy, though, which that surprised me a little bit that Nelson so kind of okay with that. But I guess when you say the right number, then then you're kind of excited,
I'm
right?
Cool with it.
So
you know what? I'll play less on the power play if you guys throw me a extra
they
million and a half.
They said
I
the right
mean,
number, so I guess he was.
My
good with
dream
it.
of dreams for the new power play coach is that he kind of does away with the over reliance on one power play unit. Anyway, I know that's not going to happen, but that is my dream.
I think that's a Bednar thing.
I know.
Yeah. But
sorry.
If they were to use Nelson on the top unit, it would not be in Drouin's spot. Ideally, it would be in the middle of the ice,
which is Nichushkin's spot.
It hasn't been. It's been Lekkonen's spot.
It's been Lekkonen's for a while.
And Lekkonen's a good player, and I like him. I don't know that I love him as a power play guy. I wonder if that's something that changes. So it all kind of comes down to this new coach, I think, more than the new player. But we'll see.
Well, because those were the concerns, right? And when you're looking at the moves that a team makes, as a fan, you're hoping that they, to some point, address the concerns and the things that made themselves apparent along the way of not successfully winning the Stanley Cup. Do we feel like this re-signing does that in any way, that we didn't think or that we have thought it hadn't already, I guess is my question. Does this move the needle for you guys at all, or is it still kind of like we're waiting to see?
No, it confirms for me that they're in on what their viewpoint is, which is a concern.
Well, I think it depends on how your outlook on this Dallas series, because I know Jackie and I disagree. For me, it was a team that looked great, played very well, and didn't get the result. And Jackie's perspective is more that they never had a chance, which, I'm not saying who's right or wrong. I'm just, to me, I look at this as they're saying, okay, in a small sample size, we didn't get the result we wanted, but we got the player we wanted to do the job we wanted him to do. And it didn't work, but we liked how it was working. If that makes sense. So in that sense, if we're thinking, okay, Brock Nelson played well, didn't get the results, but next time he will, maybe that's true. And in that way, you can find some optimism. I also didn't want him back. I didn't really see it quite like that. So it's hard for me to flip on it and try to get excited. But I do see how well the team was playing with him in the lineup. not necessarily him specifically, but the team. And I think, okay, if we're going to get this defensive juggernaut that only has lapses for 2 minutes at a time, maybe we can get lucky in those 2 minutes and win this time. But, those lapses were frustrating. And he was
the thing
a part
is, if you liked that team, you know it's not coming back. It can't. So they have to cut even more. They have to remove, if they were on the right track to something good, keeping Nelson, it just can't work. It can't. You can't bring those players back. You can't build on that. You can't try to start finding cohesion or maybe a team. So that in a way it makes it like it's impossible. It's impossible to keep that team.
You guys
sure, something has to change. But I mean, if he's more of the like, it's not a fair comparison, but like the first generation Avalanche they brought in older players from time to time, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But one great example of it working is obviously Ray Bourque, who has his name in the rafters, and he won a cup. But he didn't win a cup the first year he came. He lost that year. They lost that year. I'm not saying Brock Nelson is Ray Bourque. That's crazy. But what I am saying is maybe this is a situation like that where, okay, it didn't work the first time, but we liked it. We liked the fit. Let's bring him back and see if it works the second time.
Yeah, I was going to say, comparing him to Ray Bourque.
No, obviously, player-wise, that's insane. But situation-wise, I hope you see what I mean.
Yeah, but I don't agree that Ray Bourque should have his number in the rafters, in my opinion. But that's just me. And
well, how much did they have to change the whole team the next year, or were they building upon what they were building? For me, this is the root of the problem: is that they're not building something. When they won the cup, they built something. They built something for 5 years. And no, they didn't keep every single player the same, but the bulk of everyone was contributing and got to that point. And it's like they've completely lost the plot there. They just think plugging holes is what's going to work. And they're forgetting the building a team part.
Or they're in a different situation and they're trying to build a team a different way.
I gotta say too, because like I don't necessarily completely agree with you, Jackie, but I do have a concern about kind of like whether or not Chris McFarland has the thought process to build a team after building a cup winner. I think he was very obviously clearly well suited to building that 2022 team. But then I think like it's a different job after you win a cup. It requires you to keep guys. It requires you to look at their performance in that cup and pick the right guys to retain and pick, let the right guys go. And I don't think that part, I don't think he's proven himself in terms
this organization has never done it in the cap era. They don't get it. They don't know how to do it. What they did to get to that 2022 was unconventional, which is they had a great strategy with the targeting the RFAs. That was a great strategy, but it only worked because they had such cap abundance and they had the assets able to do that. They had McKinnon making $6 million. This is how they did it. But in having to operate as a cap team, this organization has never done it.
100%.
It took them 10 years after the lockout to even figure it out, to even realize they were in a cap situation and had to do something different. So that's the other reason why I don't think that they have the tools or the capability to get it, because they don't know how to do it. They did it when they were able to use one great strategy, and when that isn't something that they're afforded anymore, they never built internally, and they never built with free agents, which is a good thing. Free agents are overpriced, but they don't get it. And so that's part of the problem too, is that this move means they still don't get it, and they never did as an organization.
Well, this move just means that they're still employing the strategy that as long as you have 8 and 29, you have to patch and make a roster that you think is at least good enough to get them into a advantageous position in the playoffs and make something happen that maybe is unexpected. And I get that because time is of the essence when you have superstar players, and they get anxious. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there's a lot of, I guess, attention given to how the players feel, or like if Nathan McKinnon tomorrow went on a press conference and said, I don't agree with this, I'm uncomfortable, I'm unhappy here, they would trade him. They would trade him. They wouldn't come up with a reason to keep him. They wouldn't figure it out. I just think that right now they're in this position where they continually pick the wrong person to show their loyalty to. And that's, to me, is concerning. Like when you traded Mikko Rantanen, I don't think that was an example of loyalty to the core. I think it's the exact opposite. And then I think when you look at every other piece of the core now, I had people on Twitter asking me if we should trade Cale Makar for a
blasphemy.
A litany of first-round picks and 2 defenders further down the lineup. Those were real
He's
thoughts.
going to be more than 2 picks, but that's.
I think you have to ask, if somebody is asking that question, are their thoughts real?
Yeah.
Well,
the question is, how do you get better? But there is this thought that the 4 quarters is better than $1. It's what's been justified with Mikko. It's what's when people say, "Oh, let's just trade Netchas and get these bit parts." It's the thinking that that's a path forward. It just doesn't work. You need good players to win in this league. You need good players, and that's the problem. Like, I do think futures and assets are important, but you need good players.
Yeah.
And so I think anything that talks yourself away from that, which is why I don't think this Nelson 2C thing gets you need good players. I just think you needed to use what you had left to get as many good players as you could. And this just doesn't work for that. But going back to what you were saying, Adrian, the funny thing is you have McKinnon and Makar. You probably have playoffs every year no matter what. So to me, this desperation, this feeling like you're chasing it, doesn't make sense to me. Like, to me, this reminds me of the Waugh years plus Cale Makar. Like when they were chasing the playoffs every year. And I get that that's a luxury you have now. Those superstars probably get you playoffs. But like you said, if you are okay with it because you get in and anything can happen, you have superstars, anything can happen. You already had that. You don't need to do this to have that.
Yep.
So that's the part of where it's just like they just don't get it. It's a concern because I think it goes deep. And this is kind of what we're left with.
Well, Brock Nelson will be a Colorado Avalanche for 3 more years at the tune of $7.5 million AAV. I think we should probably sign off. I got some things to take care of. Thank you guys so much for joining me for a quick reaction to it. Before we go, though, I just want to kind of go around the circle and see, I know it's early. We still have to see the rest of the situation play out and what the roster will look like in months when opening night comes to really make a determination on this. But do you guys think the Colorado Avalanche got better today? Ezra, I'll start with you.
No, I think there's more to do. That this is the first move, and I expect at the end of it I'll feel like yes, but
okay,
no,
that's
not
fair.
today.
That's fair. Jackie, how do you feel?
No.
Okay. Brennan?
No, they're gonna have to give up more.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they've gotten better today. They still have the same guy that they had, I don't know, a month ago when they couldn't beat the Dallas Stars without 2 of their best players, as Nathan McKinnon put it. So I'm with you guys. I hope, like Ezra said, though, that we circle around in October and we look at a lineup and we think, okay, I could see this working out. But it remains to be seen. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into this bonus edition of the Mile High Hockey Lab. It's been a re-signing edition following the Brock Nelson signing of 3 years at $7.5 million. On behalf of the Mile High Hockey Lab and on behalf of Ezra Parter, Jackie K, Brennan Vogt, and Evan Liu, who was with us earlier, thank you so much for joining the program, and go Avalanche.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.